From the trap set for Satoru Gojo to the unexpected twists and turns that keeps us on the edge of our seats. Whether you're a die-hard fan of the series or new to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, this video will provide you with a comprehensive overview of the hidden inventory arc and everything you need to know before the start of the crazy Shibuya arc.
Episode 1 begins with a young Suguru Geto reflecting on his work as a young jujitsu sorcerer while exorcising and absorbing a cursed spirit. Afterwards, a woman explains some jujitsu sorcerers' missions. It involves them investigating a former restaurant chain president's home since it's haunted. Mei and a young Yutaheim enter the residence. They split up once they get deeper into the place. Yutaheim checks several locations for any strange activity and finds a group of rodents in one room. She exits and bumps into Mei. Yutaheim says this floor doesn't look familiar despite Mei saying she traversed this floor 3 times. Mei theorizes they're inside the cursed spirit's barrier. Mei argues this is how the spirit killed its victims. They must escape the barrier to murder the cursed spirit. So Yutaheim conjures a brilliant scheme that'll allow them to free themselves from the spirit's grasp. Yutaheim proceeds with the plan and bumps into a young Satoru Gojo. Satoru belittles Yutaheim for being scared as the cursed spirit finally reveals itself. Geto and a young Shoko arrive, and Yutaheim's happy to see her. Yutaheim surprised it's been 2 days already, but Satoru informs her that the spirit must have the power to alternate time. Mei asks Shoko, Geto, and Satoru if they handled the veil issue. The group gets scolded by a young Mazumichi for the veil, and Satoru comes forward and apologizes for forgetting. Satoru and his friends visit a basketball court. Satoru shares his thoughts about setting up veils since the populace can't see cursed spirits or cursed techniques. Geto argues it's important to keep the populace calm since it discourages the cursed spirits. Gojo argues that it's exhausting to look after weak humans while Geto claims jujitsu exists to protect non-sorcerers. Before they get into a physical confrontation, Mazumichi enters the room and assigns them a new mission. Mazumichi tells the boys their mission has 2 goals. One involves the star plasma vessel, a girl compatible with Tengen. They must escort and erase her. One of them asks Mazumichi if this is about renewing Tengen's technique, and Mazumichi states Tengen possesses an immortality curse technique but not to confuse it with eternal youth. Further, Mazumichi states that once Tengen reaches a specific age, the curse technique begins rewriting his body. Thus, Tengen will cease being human and lose his will. If that were to happen, Tengen would no longer be able to supply the jujitsu schools, society, and the assistant supervisors' barrier techniques with power. Furthermore, they won't be able to maintain security or clean up after missions. Tengen could also become a dangerous threat. This is why every 500 years, he locates the star plasma vessel to assimilate with them and overwrite the information on their body. This will assist him in resetting his curse technique back to 0. Mazumichi tells the boys the Curse User Group Q and the Time Vessel Association are after the star plasma vessel. The Curse User Group wants to upend society through Tengen's rampage. As for the Time Vessel Association, they worship Tengen like a god. Further, Mazumichi explains Tengen vows to assimilate with the girl in 2 days, so Gojo and Geto must protect and ensure she reaches Tengen in the time frame. After grabbing drinks, Satoru wonders why the Time Vessel Association wants to kill the girl. Geto claims they want to kill the girl to maintain Tengen's purity. Geto says they should be more concerned about the Curse User Group Q. He tells Satoru not to be full of himself. Geto arrives at the girl's door, but an explosion occurs, resulting in her jumping off the building. Geto rescues the girl and realizes this was a stunt caused by a member of Cursed Group Q. A member confronts Satoru, and Satoru plans to show him no mercy. Meanwhile, 2 men discuss the situation from a skyscraper. He asks his ally Fushiguro if he wants to participate in the star plasma vessel scheme, and the episode concludes with him gladly accepting the offer. Episode 2 begins with one of the Curse Group Q members begging Geto to save him from one of the cursed spirits. He threatens that his comrade Bayer will mess him up if he doesn't, but Satoru sends Geto a picture, indicating he defeated him already. At the same time, Fushiguro watches a boat competition, and his comrade wonders why he's lazying around. Fushiguro says he's waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike at Satoru and wants someone else to weaken him. We learn that Fushiguro is a sorcerer killer, is terrible with money, and has some potential relation to Megumi. Meanwhile, Satoru and Geto question if they should take the star plasma vessel girl, Riko, to the hospital. Riko awakens and slaps Satoru, questioning if he works for the men who attacked her. Geto informs Riko that he isn't with them, but Riko's not buying it and insults Geto. Riko's friend Kurwa arrives and sees the boys tormenting Riko. Geto explains his curse manipulation technique to the girls as Satoru belittles Riko for her rude behavior. Riko declares that she's Tengen, and they should declare her as Tengen even after assimilating with him in the future. Satoru and Geto ignore her and believe they won't feel bad sending her off now that they know her behavior. Riko realizes she's late for school and orders Satoru and Geto to take her there. Satoru calls Mazumichi, and he informs Satoru that he and Geto must comply with Riko's demands since Tengen wants them to. Geto reminds Satoru what will happen to Riko when she's assimilated and explains why it makes sense for Tengen to want Riko to live a pleasant life for the time being. Kurwa tells our boys that Riko doesn't have a family because she lost her parents in an accident when she was little. Kurwa's taken care of her since then and asks Geto and Satoru to let Riko have fun with her friends before her assimilation. Geto tells Satoru to head to Riko's side because two of the cursed spirits he sent her way got exorcised. The trio head to her school, and Kurwa tells them that Riko could be in the school's music room or chapel. Satoru heads for the chapel. Kurwa takes the music room, and Geto visits the other vacant areas. Meanwhile, Fushiguro speaks with his comrade over the phone about his plan, and we learn that Star Religious Group paid him 30 million yen for Riko's bounty. Further, she explains that if Riko dies, the deposit will vanish, resulting in Fushiguro not getting the full reward. Fushiguro says that no one can kill the star plasma vessel if Satoru's nearby due to Satoru's powers. Fushiguro's unsure if he can kill Satoru but tells his comrade he'll leave the bounty for Riko's head up for 47 hours and let his fools weaken Satoru and the others with him. Something bugs Fushiguro, so he plans to head out and intervene in their foray. He hangs up on his comrade and leaves the restaurant. Meanwhile, Geto stumbles upon an enemy and engages in a mind-numbing intense bout with him. After receiving a brief flashback of the enemy's past, Geto makes quick work of his foe and asks him where his allegiance lies. Satoru enters the chapel and finds Riko and her friends inside. Her friends lose their minds over Satoru's beauty and Satoru's leaning into their lust for him. Their instructor tells the girls to pipe down but secretly hands Satoru her phone number. Satoru pulls Riko aside, and they head for Jujutsu High. Kurwa stumbles upon another enemy and, with Geto's help, defeats him. Geto and Kurwa plan to follow Satoru to Jujutsu High. Geto informs Satoru of intel he received from the man he defeated. At the same time, the one he helped Kurwa fight escapes to fight Satoru. He tells Satoru that someone placed a 30 million bounty on Riko's head from an underground cursed website. Geto says these men have until 11 AM, the day after tomorrow, to complete their mission. Satoru fights his companion's enemies and toys with him. After showing off and failing at his technique, the episode closes with Riko informing Satoru that someone captured Kurwa. Episode 3 begins with Riko informing Satoru that Kurwa got captured. We cut to Kurwa telling Geto to rush to Riko's side since terrible things could happen. Geto apologizes to Satoru for underestimating how much their opponents would value Kurwa. Satoru ponders various schemes Kurwa's kidnappers will try to pull on them while Riko's worried for Kurwa's safety. Satoru agrees to bring Riko to the meeting location after hearing her out. He promises to leave Riko behind if it hurts Kurwa's chance of survival. We cut to our heroes at the beach and Kurwa apologizing to Geto for getting captured by the Star Religious Group Q. We receive a brief snippet of how Satoru and their friends' encounter with the group went down before they took their small break on the beach. Geto confirms they used a plane to get here because it was a safer means of travel. He wonders why the Star Religious Group Q designated Okinawa for the exchange. Kurwa believes they arranged the meeting here to keep Riko from making tomorrow's full moon deadline. However, Geto disagrees because they would have chosen a rural area with poor transit infrastructure. Geto notes that they have other first years from Jujutsu High with them, so their enemies wouldn't dare take over the airport. We get introduced to Nanami and Hybra, the two first years in question. Hybra's pumped for the task, while Kento's not as enthused. As Satoru and Riko are goofing around, Geto says it's time to depart. However, Satoru argues they should stay in Okinawa for one more day since there are fewer curse users here than in Tokyo. Geto asks Satoru if he's sure this is a good idea since he speculates he's wearing himself out. Satoru's not worried since he has Geto and can handle himself. We get a few snippets of Satoru and his friends visiting different locations in Okinawa before returning to Jujutsu High for their protection mission's third day. Suddenly, Fushiguro attacks Satoru, shocking Geto since they're within Jujutsu High's barrier. Fushiguro recalls a time when he went to see Satoru when he was a child. He was interested in the fact that he was born with the 6 eyes ability. He said no one ever noticed him standing behind him before, which is why he sent people to wear Satoru down. Geto pushes Fushiguro back with his cursed spirit. Satoru tells Geto not to panic because Fushigiro's attack missed his vitals. He asks Geto to protect Riko and get her to Tengen while he handles Fushiguro himself. The others flee, and Satoru and Fushiguro fight. Satoru realizes Fushiguro doesn't have cursed energy and relies on his heavenly pact to gift himself physical prowess. After an excellent display of attacks, Fushiguro uses his special grade cursed tool, the Inverted Spear of Heaven, to defeat Satoru. Meanwhile, Geto and the others get closer to Tengen's territory. Kurwa tells Riko she can't proceed. The two share one final moment together. They reach Tengen's location, the foundation of the nation's key barriers, called the Main Hall of the Tombs of the Star. Geto gives Riko instructions on where to go and promises Tengen will protect her until the assimilation. However, Geto gives Riko a chance to leave this place and return to Kurwa since he discussed the possibility with Satoru before they started their mission. Riko thinks it over and wants to stay with everyone longer. Unfortunately, Fushiguro shoots Riko and tells Geto he killed Satoru. The episode closes with Geto planning to avenge his friends.
Yo! Yo, holy shit, he dead!
Episode 4 begins with Geto fighting Fushiguro. Fushiguro explains how he managed to reach Jujutsu High to Geto. Fushiguro explains his lack of cursed energy, a cursed spirit that carries his cursed tool, and invisibility options to Geto. He says he would have attacked Riko first, but Fushiguro prioritized Satoru instead since he was a major threat to him. Geto asks Fushiguro how he knew which doors led to the Tombs of the Star. Fushiguro says his heavenly pact enhances all 5 of his senses, allowing him to see and sense difficult footprints, sense, and so on. Fushiguro says, Kuroi's probably dead, angering Geto. After a valiant effort, Fushiguro obliterates Geto and belittles him. Riko and Satoru for losing to a man like him who can't use cursed techniques. Fushiguro visits the Star Religious Group headquarters with his partner and presents the Star Religious Group representative Shigeru Sonoda with Riko's corpse. Shigeru promises to pay Fushiguro and give him a bonus. He explains he expected them to fail, but seeing that they succeeded, he doesn't mind giving them extra goodies. He explains the origins of the Star Religious Group to them and why they couldn't allow assimilation to occur. Shigeru takes Riko away while Fushiguro and his partner depart. Fushiguro told his partner to murder Kurai, but he refused. His partner explains he wanted her to be successfully rescued because it would wear Satoru down if he succeeded rather than failed. Fushiguro asks his partner to take him for lunch, but he says paying for men is strange. He only wants to discuss things with them if it's work-related or they're in hell. Fushiguro walks alone and stumbles upon a bloody Satoru. Satoru reveals he used a reverse curse technique to survive his attack. Fushiguro and Satoru fight. Fushiguro struggles to harm Satoru despite knowing intel about his limitless technique. Satoru realizes Fushiguro's from the Zenin clan, so it makes sense for him to have a grasp of his technique. Satoru fatally wounds Fushiguro. Before he dies, Fushiguro tells him his kid will be sold to the Zenin clan, the clan that rejected him. Fushiguro dies on the spot. Geto arrives at the Star Religious Group and notices Satoru carrying Riko. Geto reveals Shako healed him after his battle with Fushiguro. Satoru asks Geto if they should keep the members present here, but Geto says they shouldn't since the people surrounding them are only common believers. The episode closes with Geto and Satoru standing at opposite spectrums. 1 year after the events involving Satoru fighting Fushiguro and retrieving Riko from the Star Religious Group, Episode 5 begins with Satoru demonstrates the automatic selection portion of his Jujutsu technique to Geto and Shoko. As Satoru explains his technique and its advancements further, Geto claims Satoru's become the strongest Misfar and handles all his missions by himself. Geto claims he's been completing tasks alone too. He confirms Shako never gets the opportunity to tackle dangerous ones alone. While on a train, Geto states cursed spirits have sprung up more after the events involving Riko and the 2 factions that were after her. He questions who he's exercising cursed spirits for. While showering, Geto admits he became a Jujutsu sorcerer to save lives and tells himself not to waver. Geto bumps into Haibara, who says he'll be going somewhere far for his next mission. He tells him to gather souvenirs while he's there. Geto asks Haibara if he can keep going as a Jujutsu sorcerer, and Haibara says he plans to give it his all. Suddenly, Yuki Tesukuma arrives and interrupts Haibara and Geto's conversation. Yuki introduces herself to Geto, and he criticizes her after recalling what he knows about her. Yuki confirms Geto's claims and says she'd rather treat the cause than follow Jujutsu High's policies and treat symptoms. She'd rather create a world where cursed spirits aren't born than hunt them down. Yuki shares 2 ways to make this happen. One involves eliminating humanity's cursed energy, while the other involves helping humans control their cursed energy. Yuki feels the first option is better because there's a model case for it. Thanks to Fushiguro, she attempted to study Fushiguro, but he turned her down. Unfortunately, with Fushiguro gone, she must resort to her second plan. Since Jujutsu sorcerers leak little cursed energy, Yuki suggests that turning humans into Jujutsu sorcerers would be the way to fulfill her goal. Geto believes killing all non-sorcerers would help her complete that goal, and Yuki agrees it'd work. However, she's not crazy enough to go through with that option. Geto admits his thoughts about non-sorcerers have wavered, and Yuki tells Geto up to him to decide which path he wants to lead. Yuki tells Geto that he doesn't need to worry about the star plasma vessel, and reassures him that Tenjin's stable. Afterwards, Geto covers up Hibara's lifeless body in the morgue. Nanami's irritated about how everything should have been easier and not turned out like this. Geto tells Nanami he needs to rest and informs him that Satoru's handling their mission. Geto contemplates if being a Jujutsu sorcerer is worth it, if a mountain of his comrades' corpses waits for him at the end of this game. After tackling a mission involving 2 girls and a village of non-sorcerers, Geto gets sentenced to death for murdering the non-sorcerers with his curse manipulation technique. Masamichi tells Satoru what happened and informs him that Geto murdered his parents. However, Satoru doesn't want to believe Geto committed the crime. Geto bumps into Shoko in Shinjuku and admits he committed his crimes because he wants to create a world where only Jujutsu sorcerers exist. Shoko calls Satoru and tells him she's speaking with Geto in Shinjuku. Geto departs, and Satoru stops and interrogates him for his actions. Satoru tells Geto his goals aren't possible, but Geto claims Satoru could fulfill his goal if he wanted to. Geto says he's not backing down from his new path and that no one will change his mind. Satoru fails to pursue Geto and gets questioned by Masamichi. Meanwhile, Geto purchases a space that belonged to the Star religious group. Geto plans to use it to gather money and curses. Geto declares his ownership of this organization to its new and remaining members. Though some object, Geto demonstrates his ruthlessness by murdering someone. At the same time, Satoru meets Megumi, explains what happened to Fushiguro, and asks him if he wants to visit the Zenin clan. Megumi says he doesn't want to go if Tsumiki, his stepsister, can't find happiness. Satoru asks Megumi to become stronger as he plans to handle things with the Zenin clan alone. A year passes. Itadori, Megumi, and Nobara wake Satoru from his dream. The episode closes with Megumi asking Satoru what he's smiling about.